So, you're still burdened by hope, yes? Well, cherish that state, my friend. Hope is a weird little biological leftover, isn't it? It makes a certain sense, though. If you never give up, then you just might be able to survive whatever seemingly impossible situation you're in and live to pass on your genes. An animal that gives up hope is never at an advantage to one that doesn't. There's always a chance, after all. Maybe this one time you do outrun the fox or outfight the bear. So why can we lose hope? At what point in our past did that little trait creep in for us? Its very nature feels unnatural. Is it a weird byproduct of civilization stripping us of our literal last bit of faith? Or is it actually a strange advantage that maybe has us die while our offspring run off in fear to carry our genes? Hope's a weird thing. There's hope in ourselves, that we're stronger than we thought. There's hope in the problem, that it turns out to be smaller than we thought. And there's hope in the other, that will come in and save us. These are all just different sublimations of the same inherent drive-overdrive, if you forgive the touch of verbal flourish. The first of those three, hope that we're stronger than we thought, sounds most positive and has the advantage of being self-fulfilling. Believe that you can do something, and you're more likely to do it. Placebo effect, adrenaline, whatever. That in itself makes hope worth it, doesn't it? Hanging on to hope can take you to new personal heights. The second, hoping that the problem is smaller than you thought, is still good, though a bit insulting to yourself. I mean, you're either too stupid to understand the situation, or too blind to see it for what it is. Still, a pleasant surprise is better than no pleasure at all. And, again, it might get you to try and succeed at something you would not have otherwise tried. So again, definitely rationally worth it to be hopeful. The last, hoping for rescue, is probably the easiest and most natural. If all else fails, hunker down and hope that any moment a light shines on you and everything's okay. It requires no effort or struggle, just waiting. Not likely to help you all that much, and really, waiting while hopeless is just as good as waiting while hoping, but who knows? Maybe your body just tries harder when you believe. Still, better than not. And yet, hopelessness is real. Around the corner in all of us. All the time. It creeps in whenever our little internal monologue gets overwhelmed by what's going on around us. You know that little voice you talk to yourself with? In your head? Sometimes we just can't keep up with explaining the world to ourselves. Maybe hopelessness is inherently a sense of being overwhelmed. Let's think a hair closer on this. You know that anxiety is not naturally a bad trait, yeah? It used to be a valuable survival tool. It kept us from going off into the unknown and getting lost. It kept our living areas clean and free of waste, so that predators couldn't find us. And it kept our little tribal packs coherent and united. Well, turns out that those same urges don't apply well to city living. Anxiety as a negative comes directly from the pace of life. That fear of the unknown blocks us from taking action when we're surrounded by the new all the time. That urge to clean ourselves becomes OCD as we learn more and more about the things in our environment that can harm us. And without any tribal structure, we suddenly feel alone and desperate for any sense of closeness. Anxiety wasn't even a concept till the Industrial Revolution. It's not that fear didn't exist, it's that fear was literal. The wolf was real, the war was real, the disease was real. Now our only threats come at us couched in veils and layers of meaning. We have to make sense of things before we can fear them, and that drive to find things to react to is where anxiety is. Life is accelerating, but our ability to make sense of it isn't. That sensation of not knowing what's going on is omnipresent. At any moment, a million voices are calling for your attention, and you already know that almost all of them want to benefit themselves in some way at your expense. At every moment, there's a million tiny parasites who want your time or money, in some way a tiny bit of your life. Our internal voice can't keep up. Maybe that is where hopelessness lies. As we're overwhelmed by everything around us, that little voice that guides stops because it can't keep up with what's happening. Maybe hope really is an evolutionary leftover, one that appears only in two cases: when we don't realize how complicated life is, and when our lives are so threatened that anxiety is replaced by fear, and we can clearly envision what's going on. You know, the title clearly says, words of advice. So what's the advice? I suppose that if you feel hope, then you have clarity. Whether it's through ignorance or through a sense of raw perspective in light of actual danger, you currently have clarity. And the advice is hang on to it. There's currently something driving you, and as long as that's the case, life will make sense and have meaning. This sensation will slip away from you. As perspective comes in, everything will drown out in grays and nuance, and a futility will creep in, preventing any and all action. You will have to live as much as you can before that happens. Change and build as much as possible, because the progress of all society is on your shoulders. Everything is the burden of the hopeful.